Glowing Sty Dunfee's epic gold victory in the 35K race walk at WCH Tokyo 25. Gold medal journey to glory. Hosts Japan's hopes of a golden start to the World Athletics Championships Tokyo 25 were denied in a dramatic finale to the men's 35 km race walk as Canada's Evan Dunfee took a first global title at the age of 34. Masatora Kawano and Hayato Katsuki had looked on course for a potential home 1-2 on streets lined with home supporters. But the pair were dropped by David Itodo at the 27 km mark, only to be given a reprieve when the Ecuadorian was then given a 3.5-minute time penalty for a third red card, dropping him well out of medal contention in the process. That put Kawano in the lead just ahead of Katsuki, but the younger of the Japanese pair was already struggling in the fiercely humid conditions, stumbling at one point and eventually being caught by Dunfee. For much of the event, the Canadian had appeared well off the pace, but his wealth of global championship experience showed as his rivals wilted and, in contrast, he got stronger in the latter stages. Presciently, he had declared in a pre-event interview that, in the 35 km race walk, it's not over until it's over. There was further drama, though, on the final lap when Dunfee appeared to stiffen up and lost a chunk of time to a chasing KO Bonfim of Brazil. But with pain etched across his face, Dunfee dug in for what proved a truly attritional race to take the gold, lifting the Canadian flag above his head in celebration as he crossed the line. It added to a previous Olympic bronze medal in the 50 km in Tokyo 4 years previously, as well as a further bronze at the 2019 World Championships in Doha. The event was always going to throw up a first-time world champion, world record holder Massimo Stano, who won gold in Oregon in 2022, had been forced out of competing because of a hamstring injury. Meanwhile, defending champion Alvaro Martin retired at the end of 2023 after winning the world title in Budapest. On paper, Dunfee had been the pick of the field, having set a world record of 2 hours 21 minutes and 40 seconds for the distance in March, only for Stano to then better it by nearly a minute. And so it proved as the veteran of the sport took the gold ahead of Bonfim by just over half a minute, with Katsuki, who had previously dropped out of medal contention, climbing his way back up to a podium finish, much to the delight of the Japanese fans inside the National Stadium. For Katsuki, at 34, the same age as Dunfee, it showed his decision to ignore the advice to retire after the Tokyo Olympics was well placed for what could likely be his last major race walk over the distance. In contrast, compatriot Kawano faded significantly and had to make do with 18th place at the line. For him, it was a case of what might have been. So too Itodo. Itodo had been hoping to emulate Jefferson Perez, who won Ecuador's first ever Olympic gold in 1996 and then backed that up with a subsequent world title. Instead, Itodo came home in 9th place, more than 4 minutes off the pace, but still lifted his arms in a celebration of sorts. Matt Magendie for World Athletics. Evan Dunfee's name has become synonymous with Canadian race walking. Tall, lean, and unmistakably determined, he's no stranger to the world stage. With a bronze at the Tokyo 2020 Olympics and a bronze again at the 2022 World Championships in Eugene, Dunfee had been circling the summit for years. But gold, that had eluded him. The 35 km race walk is a relatively new addition to the athletics calendar, replacing the 50K event to fit modern schedules and athlete welfare. But that didn't make it any less brutal. Tokyo, in August 2025, was blistering, 33 degrees Celsius with suffocating humidity. The course, winding through the city's historic core, was flat but relentless. Every step was a balancing act between technique, stamina, and willpower. For Dunfee, this wasn't just another race. It was a culmination of pain, of persistence, and of purpose. The build-up, one last shot. Coming into Tokyo, Dunfee was not the outright favorite. The field was stacked. There were the young Spaniards, fresh off national records, the relentless Chinese trio, known for their clockwork pacing, the seasoned South American who had shattered the 20K world best earlier in the season. Dunfee, at 34, he was considered the veteran, the tactician. Some pundits whispered that his time had passed, but they didn't know the fire still burning in him. "I've learned to trust the pain," Dunfee said before the race. "It teaches you who you are." And who he was about to be revealed. The race, where legends walk alone. Kilometers 1 to 15, playing the long game. From the gun, Dunfee settled into rhythm. Calm, controlled. He hovered in the lead pack, breathing easily, shoulders relaxed, as others jostled for early dominance. The Chinese contingent pushed the pace early, clearly hoping to thin the field. Dunfee let them go. By kilometer 10, the pack began to stretch. Sweat gleamed on faces. Posture stiffened. Dunfee, still smooth, still patient. A walking metronome. By kilometer 15, one thing was clear. He was in the zone. Kilometers 15 to 30, the silent surge. This is where the race turned from strategy to survival. The heat was taking its toll. A top European contender staggered and stepped off. One of the Chinese walkers got carded for loss of contact. The streets shimmered under the sun. And here, Dunfee made his move. Without a burst of speed, without drama, he simply began inching ahead. Step by step. By 25K, he had built a 10-second lead. By 30K, it was 22 seconds. Spectators, watching from shaded cafes and apartment balconies, leaned forward. Was he going too soon? Not Dunfee. He was exactly where he wanted to be. Kilometers 30 to 35, heart overheat. The final 5K became a spectacle. The chase pack regrouped. One Spanish walker surged. A Colombian tried to respond. But Dunfee, fueled by the cheers, the ghosts of past disappointments, and the vision of gold, never looked back. With 1 kilometer to go, his lead was 30 seconds. His shoulders rocked, his arms pumped in perfect symmetry, his legs, weary but unyielding, carried him through the final straight line with Canadian flags, Japanese fans, and international awe. As he crossed the finish line, arms outstretched, eyes glistening, the clock stopped. 2 hours 25 minutes and 38 seconds. A personal best. A national record. And the fastest time in the world this year. Evan Dunfee, world champion. The moment, gold, finally. When the Canadian flag was draped over his shoulders, it wasn't just a national symbol, it was a cloak of vindication. Dunfee didn't weep, not at first. But as the anthem played, his eyes betrayed the emotions no words could capture. Behind the scenes, the usually articulate athlete choked back tears as he told CBC, "I've walked thousands of kilometers for this. Through injuries, doubts, lonely mornings. This gold, it means everything." Fans around the world flooded social media with tributes. In Richmond, British Columbia, his hometown, watch parties erupted in cheers. In Japan, journalists praised his sportsmanship, calling him the poet of pace. Fellow athletes, from marathoners to decathletes, tipped their hats to a man who made walking look like war and ballet at once. Legacy, more than just a medal. Dunfee's victory wasn't just about a race. It was about what it takes to win when you're not the favorite. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button, like and share. Till next time.